Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 10 at Saratoga on Whitney Saturday is the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens presented by Runhappy. Before we get to the analysis, let me remind you to please head on over to DRF's dedicated Saratoga landing page. DRF.com/spa is where you go for PPs, picks, clocker reports, betting strategies, all the must-have tools to win big this summer at Saratoga. Here's the field for the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens presented by Runhappy. It is the signature sprint race for 3-year-olds in the country. It's a big, wide open field, Mike. No parole, the number 6, 9-5 on the morning line, has been very, very impressive in all of his sprint races. This is his toughest test to date.
Yeah, that is certainly true. I mean, there just feels to me, Dan, and I'm not, I don't have any real knocks on No Parole. He's a very fast horse, and he's very talented as well. Already a Grade 1 winner over this distance, but there's just a lot going on in this race. I think a lot of different horses can win here. It's just one of those races where I don't feel like taking a short price on anybody is necessarily a great strategy.
I had a lot of trouble figuring out who is going to go, who is going to rate as it pertains to the pace projector. And as we look at the pace projector, they've got the 4, the 6, the 5. Those 3 horses expected to go out there and set a fast pace. Echo Town, of course, the 4. We know No Parole, who wired him in the Woody Stevens, is going to go. But I wonder if Mischievous Alex, the number 5, is going to be very aggressively ridden this time around.
Yeah, I didn't know what they would do with him in this race, but he's certainly fast enough to go forward. I certainly don't see Echo Town on the lead in this race. I think he'll be forward. I do not see him on the lead. No Parole is going. I actually even think Tap It to Win might be going from the outside. I don't see why Baffert's horse from the 2-hole wouldn't be trying to show speed. I think this pace is going to be fast.
That would be my sort of upset horse to make the front, that Baffert horse, 8 Rings, and we'll get to him in a minute. But first, let's start with Hopeful Treasure, who's going to be a big price for trainer Michael Pino. 3rd start of the form cycle here, but this horse is going to really need to improve from a buyer's standpoint. Career debut came for a $40,000 maiden claiming tag. He's okay. I think this is a tough spot for him.
Yeah, I agree. He is okay, and I have no problem with these guys wanting to take a shot in a big race with this horse. He's going to have to take a huge step forward in here. He will be closing at the end, I think, Dan. I guess that works for him. In the Gold Fever last time, he had a big 3-way duel in front of him, and he was running through the stretch. He was never getting there. He was never a threat, but he was closest at the finish.
I'm mercurial is perhaps the best way to describe the career of the 2 8 Rings thus far. When he's good, he's very, very good. We saw him wire him in the Grade 1 American Pharaoh going 2 turns last year in a race where he had all the best of it on the front end. We also saw him drop his jockey at 1-2 in the Delmar Futurity. Since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, a race where he didn't run very well, he's only run once, which I think was kind of odd. They ran him in the Bachelor. He didn't run very well, albeit against a good horse in Long Weekend, and then they put him away again. The fact that Baffert is here, I think, is a very, very good sign, especially when you see the typical Baffert workouts, a string of pearls.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, Dan. He's not a horse that I particularly like in this race. But he's just fascinating that he's even in this spot. He has an inside post with speed. I think Rosario's going to go. And then we'll see. I mean, he's not the kind of horse I want to be betting on in this race, Dan, but he's also not the kind of horse where I'm going to, fall off my chair when he runs a huge race.
Sonneman, the number 3, would really appreciate a hot and contested pace. He likes to come from out of it. I am taking the easy goer with several grains of salt. It's a match race. He wasn't the speed in the match race. He's not going to win that race. Celtic Striker is very, very sharp and was able to control. He's good sprinting. He's good when there's some pace in front of him, and he probably needed his last race. Does he have to improve? Yes, but maybe he can pick up some pieces and sneak into these single race exotics.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. I'm a fan of this horse. I've liked him basically right from the start. His win 2 back at Gulfstream, which was over 7 furlongs. It's not, this kind of horse. He wasn't facing a really strong field there, but it's this kind of race where they were really going in front of him, a fast, competitive pace. He came wide to the stretch, and he just kept coming, and he closed it down at the end. I think there's a forward move in this horse. I don't even know if a forward move gets it done for him in here, Dan, but he can get a piece of this race.
The 4 Echo Town, never off the board from 6 lifetime starts for trainer Steve Asmussen. I thought he was going to get forward in the Grade 3 Woody Stevens. Maybe not in the lead, but forward. And he took a tremendous bump out of the gate by Mischievous Alex that I think knocked him off stride and basically cost him a chance to get forward. So instead of trying to get position, I think the whole plan was just to get him to find his footing. And he ended up in behind, down towards the inside, and he ran on a little bit to finish second. I, like you, don't think he's going to be on the lead. I think he'll be sitting just off, and I don't think we've seen his best yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think he can get a decent trip in this race. I don't expect him to be firing and trying to make the front here, but he is going to be forward, and you're right. The bump at the start, it compromised him, and it compromised the Mischievous Alex as well, and it left No Parole absolutely loose on the lead in that race. And that was all they wrote for that, for the Woody Stevens. Echo Town's a really nice horse, Dan. I really like him. I'm a big fan of this horse. I'm just looking elsewhere in this race, and not that I don't think he can win. I think he can win. I just wanted different horses in here.
Mischievous Alex had his 3-race win streak snapped in the Woody Stevens when he bumped off of Echo Town at the start. He was one of the better 3-year-old one-turn horses this year, without a doubt, early in the year. Now, I think the question you have to ask yourself is, have they caught up with him, these 3-year-olds, and they're just as good as he was now? Was he just simply more precocious than they were earlier this year? Or can you give him a legitimate excuse for the Stevens and say, listen, he's going to be up close to the pace, he's a hard hitter, and he's proven as a graded stakes horse?
Yeah, I mean, I think both things could be true. I think the worry that I have with him more than anything else is, when he won the Swale and the Gotham, I mean, they weren't the strongest fields in the world. On the other hand, he basically won those races for fun. I think this horse actually has a lot of talent. I think he was compromised last time when he was bumped at the start. And I realized that he finished behind Echo Town, he finished behind Shoplifted, but it was basically down to the last 50 yards, a three-horse battle for second in there. He didn't get it. But he didn't run terrible in there. I don't know. I think this horse is set to rebound in a pretty big way in this race, and I'm using him.
No Parole has never been headed from 4 starts sprinting, and in the Woody Stevens, a race we're going to show right now, he beat 3 of these common rivals, but he benefited when no one else went to the front. And if you give a horse like No Parole an easy lead, he's going to do this. He's going to sprint on home. He didn't have to change leads in this race. His advantage up front was so great. A 100 Beyer speed figure. Now, I don't know if No Parole's getting this kind of setup in here. Maybe he's just simply faster than the rest of these horses. It will be more difficult this time for him.
Yeah, well, we'll see, Dan. I think it could be tougher for him in this race as well. I don't really have any knocks on him. I'm a fan of this horse. I think he's really good, and he's really talented. He sort of tipped his hand, I thought, 2 starts back when he won that Oak Lawn race. They sent him hard from the gate. I thought he ran really well in that race. Last time, he just had all the best of it. To me, it makes it hard to take him as the favorite back in this race, which is just going to be a lot tougher for him. I'm a fan. I'm just going to bet somebody else in this race.
Shoplifted the 7's an intriguing runner. I think he's got a little bit of ability, and perhaps he's dirtied up. I think there are going to be some that say he's exposed. They've run him, 5 times now in graded stakes races. He's yet to win one, but I think he has excuses for some of his races. The Smarty Jones at Oaklawn, a paceless race over a wet track. The Oaklawn Stakes, he kind of made one of the first moves into the teeth of the pace over a wet track. And then the Woody Stevens, that fast-paced scenario just didn't develop for him. He's going to get a setup here. I like him as a closing sprinter better than a 2-turn horse. I think he's an interesting upset possibility.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that, especially if the morning line's right and he goes off at that kind of a price. I feel like a lot of the same things were said about him going into the Woody Stevens last time, and I didn't particularly like him that day. I guess you're right. The race didn't set up the way that many thought it would. He did make a 3-wide move on the turn, couldn't get to No Parole, and then he just didn't really have that much of a finish. I don't know. I kind of wanted him to run better last time, Dan. Maybe this will be the spot. Maybe they'll go really fast and he'll come in and make one big run into this race. But I don't know. I'm kind of wishy-washy on this horse.
Trainer Jeremiah Engelhardt has 2 in here. He has the 8-3 technique, and you can certainly understand why Jeremiah sent this horse down to Oaklawn to run in their Kentucky Derby series. He showed a lot of talent as a 2-year-old, especially in his maiden win, going this distance over this track. And he really was far from embarrassed in his races at Oaklawn. The Smarty Jones, again, was a race controlled on the front end, a paceless race over a wet track. And in the Rebel, he really didn't run that badly against Nadal, who, of course, came back to win the Arkansas Derby with a 98 Beyer. I guess the layoff is a concern, but again, I like the fact that Jeremiah is just going to run him here off of the layoff.
Yeah, I like all those things too, and I agree with you. I think he ran, maybe better than he might be given credit for in the 2 Oaklawn races. He never really looked like he was going to win either one, but he ran pretty well in those races. I think this is a good horse, Dan. I really like him cutting back in distance. off the layoff here, catching a fast pace. I don't know, maybe that won't work out for him, but I think this horse has a ton of talent.
Let's watch Lukas Pride's most recent race. It was over a sloppy track in the Gold Fever Stakes at Belmont, going 6 furlongs. He earned an 85 Beyer speed figure, a career best performance. He's on the outside, and he's going to get it done to just get up in the shadow of the wire. Now, he's obviously going to have to do better from a Beyer speed figure standpoint. He'd appreciate a wet track. I don't think improvement is out of the question, but he's going to have to improve a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the question either. I'll give him a little extra credit for that win right there because the pace was fast. The horses that he ran down, narrowly ran down at the end. They hooked it up basically right away, but he came after him pretty early. It was a long duel for him, and he prevailed at the end. He ran well in there. He's going to have to run better in this spot.
Captain Bombastic, like his stablemate 3 Technique, wintered at Oaklawn, tried his hand in a couple of 2-turn races, faced some good competition, and I think that distance was just a little bit far. They found a great spot for him to prep for this in the Mike Lee against New York Breds. Let's watch that race. Luis Saez rode him so confidently in here. He's in behind horses, Captain Bombastic, and if you're backing him, you're getting a little bit worried. He's in behind, he's looking for a seam. Well, he's going to find the seam, and once he splits horses, the race is over very quickly. A nice return to sprinting for Captain Bombastic.
Right. That race, it was just a question of whether or not he was going to find room. You could tell that he had horse in behind there down past mid-stretch. But once he found room, he was way better than those horses. A good effort. Sort of a similar pattern here to the one that 3 Technique's going to try. Obviously a tougher spot for 3 Technique, but 2 Oaklawn routes, cut back to a sprint when they bring him back to New York.
Tap It to Win, I still think they're trying to figure out what kind of horse he is. Is he a sprinter? Is he a router? He looked so good winning his maiden at Saratoga, going 6 furlongs last year. He was one of the only horses that day to win on the rail. And he looked really good 2 starts back, going a 1-turn mile and a 16th when he shook loose and just dusted that field. They ran him in the Belmont. I would take that race with several grains of salt. I think this cut back to 7 is okay for him because he has shown the ability to sit and finish, Mike.
Yeah, I agree. I think in a lot of ways, I prefer him sprinting, at least right now. I'm like, he didn't run great in the Belmont, and I don't think I really care about that race. His win 2 back, I thought, was legit. He is 2 for 2 sprinting on the dirt. And in both of those races, he didn't, he wasn't out running. He wasn't on the lead either time either. In either of those races, though, Dan, he can sit just off the pace in here and make a run through the stretch. I think this horse is very dangerous in the spot.
Top pick time for the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens, presented by Runhappy. I'm curious to see if Echo Town can take another step forward. I think he's still getting better, and I think he's going to sit in the second fly. He's not going to make the lead, I don't believe. Timeform US has him up there. I think he's going to sit just off the pace. I think he has a forward move coming for him, and I think he'll be a decent price. You're getting 3 Technique on the cutback. I know you've been waiting for that, and you give this horse pace, he'll come rolling late.
Yeah, hopefully they go in front of him and he can make one run into this race. I'll be honest, Dan, each of my top 3 picks, 5, 8, and 11, I could have put any one of those 3 on top. I think all 3 of those horses have a real chance in this race.
You see so many different numbers right in front of us. It's that kind of a race. It's wide open. Mike's going 8-5, 11-2. I'm going with Echo Town. I think No Parole's the horse to beat. I'm not sure I want to bet him off an easy trip last time out, but I think he'll be right there. I think Shoplift is going to give a good account of himself from the back of the pack. 4-6-7-5 for me, 8-5, 11-2 for Mike. It's the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkens, presented by Runhappy. Approximate post time on Saturday at the Spa, 6:18 Eastern. Best of luck.